Today we'll see inheritance. SAP ABAP object-oriented inheritance. What is object-oriented inheritance? Okay.
The records.
So what is inheritance? Inheritance means deriving the features of one class into another. Okay. Or reusing the methods attributes of one class in another class. Okay. That is inheritance. Let's say there is class A. There are some methods in the class A. Method 1, 2, 3, 4, and there are some attributes. So all these methods and attributes can be reused in another class, a different class, class B. So all these methods of the class A can be reused in class B along with some additional features, additional methods. Okay. So that means features of class A plus class B additional features. That means additional methods and attributes. So here the class A is a superclass and class B is a subclass. Okay. So there are different types of inheritance in SAP ABAP. First one is single inheritance. So this is single inheritance. Here we have one superclass and one subclass. Superclass contains method 1, method 2 and two attributes, attribute 1 and attribute 2. Do you know, right, what is attribute? Yeah, and it have two methods. So by using inheritance, we are deriving all these properties of superclass into subclass. This is subclass, call it as C2. This is C2 and this is C1, class 1. So what does this subclass contains now? When we inherit features of the superclass into subclass, this contains A1, attribute 1, attribute 2. Along with this, you can add your own attributes, A3. And methods, M1, M2, M3, etc. If you want, you can add more methods. So observe this. So we are able to reuse all the methods and attributes of the superclass into subclass, right? So what is the visibility of these superclass attributes and methods? What is the condition? Can we reuse all the methods and attributes of the superclass in subclass by using inheritance? Can we reuse everything?
Class one, class is different. The remaining
No.
things are we can use.
No. So whatever the methods, attributes which are defined in public and protected section. Did you guys observe that visibility section where you are selecting public, protected or private when you are defining a method or attribute?
Yes, yes.
So whatever the methods are defined under public or protected visibility, only those methods and attributes can be accessible in the subclass. The methods or attributes which are defined under private cannot be accessed to subclasses. Those are local to the only same class. Those are accessible to the same class. Okay, those are not accessible to the outside classes. Okay,
Oh,
to reuse objects or methods in subclass, what is the condition? These attributes and methods should be defined under public or protected section. Visibility. We can also call them as access specifiers. Access specifiers. If in interviews, if someone asks you what are the access specifiers in ABAP, what is your answer? Public,
public and
protected, and private.
private.
When you define a method or attribute as public, all these methods and attributes are accessible to the external classes. For example, the subclass. Okay, those are accessible to the all classes, not only subclasses. All the external classes can access those data, attributes or methods. When you define class or attribute under protected, what does that mean? Protected means that is accessible within the class and that is accessible only for the subclasses. Only for the subclasses which are inheriting that superclass. Outside classes cannot access protected attributes or methods. Only subclasses can access. Okay. And what is private access specifier? When you define attribute in private, when you define attribute or method in private, those methods or attributes can accessible only within the same class. There is no outside access for those attributes or methods which are defined under private. Even if you are using inheritance, subclasses cannot access those attributes and methods. Okay.
Oh,
to reuse attributes or methods using inheritance in the subclasses, the superclass methods and attributes should be defined under public or protected. Okay, clear? This is single inheritance. So there is one superclass and one subclass. Okay. So what is this inheritance? Multi-level inheritance. So there is one superclass and we have two subclasses. So the superclass C1 is inherited by two subclasses. So whatever the methods, attributes available in public and protected section in superclass are accessible to subclass 1
Subclass.
and subclass 2.
Subclass.
Okay. This is called multi-level inheritance. And again, this subclass can act as a superclass to the different subclasses. This superclass, the subclass is again superclass to some other subclass, right?
Yes.
So here, whatever the methods, attributes available in subclass 1 will be accessible in these subclasses. Class 4, class 5. This is called multi-level inheritance. Okay. Here, the subclass C2 is the superclass for C4. Okay. Subclass C2 is the superclass for C5. Again, you can reuse C3 also, right? So, is it a subclass or superclass? How can you decide that? If any subclass is inheriting, we call that main class as superclass. Okay. Here, C1 is the superclass for C2, and C2 is the superclass for
C4.
C4.
Right.
C4 and C4.
So, what is C3? Is it a superclass or subclass?
Subclass.
Is the
Subclass. Because there is no subclasses for this C3, right?
yes.
So, in single inheritance, this is like that. This is like only one superclass has only one subclass. There might be another level. Okay. There might be one more level in the single inheritance, but still it is a single inheritance. C2 is a superclass for C3. Okay. Now, the C3 contains public protected methods of C1 and C2. Okay. This is a single inheritance. So one superclass has only one subclass. Okay, clear?
How we know అన్న
Hmm.
మనకి ఇదే సబ్ క్లాస్ సూపర్ క్లాస్ అని ఎలా తెలుస్తాము?
I'll show you that.
ఓకే.
Okay, is this clear?
Oh.
Is this clear till now?
Yes.
What is this? One subclass is accessing two superclasses. This is called
సబ్ క్లాస్
multiple inheritance. This is called multiple inheritance. Okay, this is called multiple inheritance. So two superclasses, one subclass is deriving two superclasses. Subclass C3 is inheriting C1 and C2. Okay, this is called multiple inheritance. So one subclass will have two superclasses, but this is not possible in ABAP. Multiple inheritance is not possible in ABAP. We cannot achieve multiple inheritance in ABAP. Please remember that when someone asks you about inheritance, what is inheritance? Deriving the features of superclass into subclass, or inheriting the attributes or methods of the superclass into subclass is called inheritance. We can reuse the features in the sense methods or attributes of the superclass in subclass by using inheritance. That is your answer. So if they ask about what are the different types of inheritance, single inheritance, multi-level
మల్టీలేబుల్
inheritance, and multiple
మల్టిపుల్.
inheritance. Okay, single inheritance means one superclass will have one subclass. Okay, clear?
Clear.
What is multi-level inheritance? One superclass
వన్
will
సూపర్
have
క్లాస్ అండ్
multiple
Multiple.
subclasses. Multiple subclasses. Again, that subclass will act as a superclass for the different subclass. That is multi-level inheritance. What is multiple inheritance? Two superclasses are deriving by one subclass, but this is not possible in ABAP. Okay, one subclass cannot have two superclasses. One superclass can have multiple subclasses, but one subclass cannot have two superclasses. Clear?
Yeah.
So this is not possible in ABAP. So we'll achieve this multiple inheritance through interfaces. Okay, multiple inheritance can be achieved using interfaces in a SAP object-oriented ABAP. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear or not? So multiple inheritance is not possible in SAP ABAP. One subclass cannot have two
Two
superclasses.
superclass.
Okay, is it clear?
Not clear.
Clear.
Okay. Let's create one class. First we will create one superclass. So there is no, it is not something special. Okay, what we are going to create, it's a usual class. Okay, but in the object oriented, when we are working on inheritance, we call it as superclass and subclass. Okay, but they are normal classes only. Clear? Okay, I'm creating a class. Class here, observe, provide the class description. Here, observe this checkbox. What is this checkbox? Final. If you use this final checkbox, this class cannot be inherit. This is not supporting inheritance. This is not going to be support inheritance as long as this final checkbox is selected. Clear? We cannot use in inheritance if this final checkbox is selected. That's why if you want to use this, if you want to reuse these features of this superclass attributes and
Class
methods
methods.
of the superclass, you have to remove this final checkbox so that it will support inheritance. Okay, if this final checkbox is selected, that is not supporting inheritance. Okay, define a method. For example, get material, instance method. Visibility is very important. What are the visibilities available? Public, protected, and
Public
private.
protected.
So if you want to derive the superclass methods in subclasses, that should be public or protected. Okay, define the importing parameters. I'll take material number as importing. It is importing parameter. Associate type is manual, and I'll take ex underscore Mara. I'm just returning everything, or you can create a type structure with the limited fields. Okay, you know, right, how to create a type structure and use the type structure as
Yes.
okay. So I'll also define one attribute. Go to attributes. I'll define one attribute called language. Instance attribute. Visibility is public or protected. Type is,
Style language.
or you can also use pras. Data elements pras. You can also use that. Okay. I'm defining one more attribute. I'm selecting this as private attribute. Okay. Now go back to methods and implement the method. Double click on it to implement the method. I'm using select star. Sorry, I'm using, is it a work area like structure or internal table like structure? The cx underscore mara.
Internal, sorry, work area type.
Observe carefully and tell me, is it a work area like structure or internal table like structure?
Work area only.
This is internal table like, sorry, this is work area like structure only because it is a table. It is not a table type. Mara is not a table type. If you want to define it as a internal table like structure, you have to create a table type for the Mara or go to types and create the table type, right?
Yes.
Select single star from Mara into, do we need to create a separate work area here? Since we are selecting all the fields of Mara table and we defined ex underscore Mara with the reference of entire Mara table, you don't need a separate table. You can just use exporting parameter because both types are same, right? Okay. Now directly we are passing data to the exporting parameter without using any other objects. Activate this. Activate all the dependent objects of this class. I'm creating one more method. I'm using one more method, get PO instance method. This is private method. Okay. So what is the importing parameter for this? Purchase order number is the importing parameter. The importing method, associate type is EBELN. Now I don't want all the fields of what is the header table for purchase order data? EKKO, right? So I don't want all the fields of header data, but I want only few fields like EBLN number, company code, and purchase order type. That's why I have to create a custom structure with the limited fields, or I can also create types here. Okay. It's like type structures, what we create in the program level. CT underscore EKKO. Click on here. Yes. Types, right? Okay. Looks like maybe let it be private. Okay. Go to types. Types. Begin of EBELN type EBE ln bookers type bookers. Okay, I want only these two fields. End of gt underscore ekko.
EBLN name change.
E spelling. E letter say EBL.
Oops.
Mhm. gt underscore t underscore
EK.
ebeln type. So here what we are doing, we are defining a table type. Okay, t underscore ekko type standard table of gt underscore ekko. So what we did here, we defined a type structure and we have created a table type within the class. Okay, is it clear? We defined a type structure and we created a table type. Okay, so this is table type. This is not internal table. Please observe. So now observe here. Here we have two objects created in types. This is if you define any importing or exporting parameter or any attribute with reference to this, this is a work area like structure. If you are using type structure, if you are using table type, is it a work area like structure or internal table like structure? Go to methods. Now define. So already define importing parameter. Define the exporting parameter et underscore. But there is no sense here because for one EBLN number we'll be having only one record in EKKO, right? It is suitable for EKPO. Okay, anyway, we'll just use it. Exporting. What is the type? GT underscore T underscore EKKO.
EKKO.
Okay. Now the CT underscore PO data will act as internal table like structure. You can pass the multiple records. Go to methods. Implement the method. How to implement this method? We just defined it. How to implement a method? Double click on it. It will create the implementation. This is the implementation. Okay. Select EBLN bookers from EKKO into table.
Table.
Do we need to define a separate internal table or can we use the same ET underscore PO data?
It's separate internal table.
Why?
No.
Because we are not selecting all data from the table.
That's why Sai, please observe. That's why we defined a separate table type.
Okay.
That is the whole purpose here. That's why, right, we created a separate type structure and created a table type because we are selecting only limited fields. What is the structure of this table type? What are the fields?
Required fields we select.
Required field.
What are those fields?
EBLN book.
EBLN
EBLN and
bookers.
bookers, right? Only these two fields, right? We defined this type
Yes.
structure with only these two fields, right? In the same order, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why you can use it here because both structures are same. You are selecting only two fields and you define this type structure with only two fields, the same fields. right? Both
Yes.
structures are same now, so that you don't need a separate. If you are taking any other fields in the different order in this type structure, then you may need a separate internal table. But here both structures are same, right? You define this type structure with EBLN and Bookers, and you are selecting only those two fields in the select statement, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Where EBLN
ELN
equal to
equal to IMEBLN.
IN
importing parameter data. We're directly passing our data to exporting parameter, right? Activate it. So now I'm done with my superclass or any class. It's not a superclass yet. This is not a superclass. I'll call it as class 1. This is not a superclass. Okay. Now go to SC24. I'm calling it as class 2. Create. Again, same. If you want to make it available for inheritance, please don't select final checkbox. If you don't need inheritance for this class, remove this final checkbox. Okay. I'm removing the final checkbox and creating. Now go to properties. What can you see here?
subclass,
So
What is this
Subclass.
button?
superclass,
Is it subclass? What is this button? Superclass.
Superclass.
Click on that superclass button. What is your class? ZDemo. Superclass is your class which is already there. Enter that as superclass. Now this ZDemo superclass becomes a actual superclass. This is the superclass of ZDemo class 2. Clear? When you enter the superclass button and enter the class as superclass. Go to methods now. Save, click on save. When you click on save, what can you see here?
get material data.
Get material data. Go to attributes. What can you see here?
Language only.
Language only, right?
attribute,
So go to our superclass. Go to attributes. We have two attributes, language and country. But why we are able to see only one attribute?
That private is not accessible.
Yeah,
So there's
private is not accessible. Let's try to change it as protected and activate it. Go to attributes. Now we can see country also, right?
Yes.
So you get my point, right? We can access only public or protected attributes or methods in subclass. This ZDemo class 2 is the subclass of ZDemo superclass.
Class. Class.
Okay. Now we have a method get material. Go to parameters. You have all the exporting and importing parameters. What? Okay. If you want your own methods, create your own methods here. That
all.
is get okay.
Instance.
Public or protected. Okay. Or you can also extend functionality of the superclass method. What is the extension means? Adding some other feature,
adding new,
some other logic. Okay. Double click on here. So this is the superclass method along with this standard logic. If you want additional logic, you can also do that. How to do that? You can create your own methods and you can create your own attributes. To add more logic to the superclass method, what you have to do? You have to redefine this method. Redefine. Observe this. How to extend the method of the superclass in subclass? Extend means adding additional logic. Clear? Redefine the method. What can you see here?
Importing and exporting.
Yes. So this is the superclass method. This is the superclass method. I'll pass the importing. And this is my exporting. Along with that, I'll add some more functionality. I'll add some more functionality, that is select single star from MAKT into
Array and store name.
where
Math.
matner equal to im underscore
Underscore
matner.
math.
So I'm extending the functionality. So there is only basic functionality here in the class, that is selecting material data. So along with material data, what I am selecting? I'm selecting material text data also. That is additional functionality. How to extend a class method?
By using
Redefining.
Redefined.
Redefine. Okay, we have to use redefine. Or for example, I can take like this. You can also take like this hyphen. Okay, clear? I'm extending the functionality of class method here. Activate it. Clear? Along with this, you can add your own methods and attributes. Clear? Now test this subclass. Now test this subclass. Enter some get material. So we did not implement the get material text yet. Okay, that is an unimplemented method. So I don't know whether 100 is available or not. Let's check. So 100 is not available. About material number 1. Or go to Mara table and okay, looks like material number 1 is available. This is material number 1. We got the data, right? So this ZDemo class 2 is the subclass of ZDemo superclass. Again, you can make this ZDemo superclass 2 as ZDemo class 2 as superclass. How? Create one more class and define ZDemo class 2 as superclass for that subclass. Okay.
Okay.
So what is the main advantage of using inheritance? Reusability. Reusability of the
Using the
functionality.
methods and the attributes.
Okay, reusing the methods and attributes of the superclass in subclass without creating again and again, without creating the duplicate logic. Okay. Since we see only few lines of code, it is very easy. But you think only for these 2 lines of code, why we need to inheritance and all. But in real time, there will be methods with the complex functionality, complex logic, with thousands of lines of code.